must have known that, man, because Steve Chandlin, Mark was just saying this was his theme, so his most recent theme song. Perhaps driving on the way in.
Skydiving.
Oh, skydiving, of course. You skydived on the way in here?
No.
And quite an entrance. What's happening, gang? We're back live in the Secret Stash. I'm your host, Jesse Ibanez. Tracking down some cool local people. Talking about some cool local stuff. That's what we're doing here every Tuesday from 10 a.m. till noon on ESPN Radio 1700. Appreciate you guys hanging out with us. Doing our Stash Nation a solid on this hour, talking about floating. And if you haven't heard about floating yet, I mean, this is a pretty cool thing. I just learned earlier that they've been doing this since 1958. I didn't even know that. Thanks to my man, Mark Lesicka, who's in the house, owner of Float Spa San Diego. You can catch him at floatspassandiego.com. Or you can call him, wait for it, at 858-279-3301. I'll give that number one more time. It's 858-279-3301. Mark, hanging out in the stash, sleep studying, Army studying. I want to get into some brain stuff, my man. So there you are. You're floating, sensory deprivation style. There's no light. There's no noise, especially no noise because your ears are somewhat submerged and you have earplugs in. And you can't feel gravity because it's the highly salinous as the Dead Sea, right? So you're not really feeling yourself against the water. And then what happens to the brain?
Wow, that's a good question. We get that often. People come into the lobby and they want to know, so what can I expect? We flew down to London in 2007 when we were considering opening a center and met with Tim Strudwick of Floatworks down there. He's the world's largest float center. He's seen thousands and thousands of people. And one of the things that he assured me is there's just no two floats alike.
Okay.
And, it's like, I thought, wow, that's kind of odd. It's a pretty controlled environment. Why would that be? And one of the things he expressed to me is it's just like when you're dreaming. You don't have the same dream every night. And the place where you go in that tank, you enter into a very deep place, which you have your wake state, you get your, relaxed state, and then you have this state known as theta. Mm-hmm. A lot of people would just love to hang out there. The next stage, you drift through there for a little bit in the night, and then you go into delta, which is your sleep. Yeah. In the tank, you enter that state, that theta state. And so it's very, your mind gets very creative. A lot of times it might be visual, just, recall of stuff, a lot of memory stuff. People, they come out with all kinds of different, things that they went through. But for me, it just really gets me relaxed to a place where I can think clearly. As I think we all agree, when what's the biggest problem when we're trying to make a decision is when we're stressed out. And we're not setting aside everything. A lot of times it's best to involve someone else because they're not involved in the chaos and the drama. So the tank helps you get to a place where, you're more centered and stable. And the brain in 45 minutes goes to what most people spend all night, to get into. I think it was about a year ago we had the Army Psych team, the head over the Army Psych team come in. And, he walked up my counter and said, hey, flat out, I don't believe in this. I think it's a bunch of woo-woo. Yeah. And, I'm going to go get in a tank and float, and this is going to do something for me. And I go, oh, boy, so why is the guy here? And then right after he said that, he said, Mark, I came over here because my guys are getting better here, and I got to find out what it is. So I really appreciated his integrity. Here's a guy that was honest, didn't believe in what we were doing, thought it was weird. But, he started seeing his guys for about a year come in and just radical transformation from everything from physical to mental. I mean, some guys that have been in 3 years of therapy said would go float 2 or 3 times and come back and talk about PTSD stuff that they could not touch on. So what they did was they got some DARPA money. It was a defense grant and came in here and started studying floating and find out where you're going. And what they discovered was in 45 minutes, a person will go as deep as most people take 5 to 6 hours to get into.
Wow.
So it's a very quick shutdown. And, people say, well, what studies are out there for all of this? It'd probably be difficult to really, spend the money to track all that. But all I know is that time after time, people report back to us that, it sticks. It's like riding a bike. You don't lose that memory of how to do something.
That's a critical piece, too, because I hate to kind of play into the devil of this, but like people who have a tough time meditating probably have a tough time turning off their mind, or probably the same avatar of folks that say things like, I just don't have time to do that, right?
Exactly.
Isn't it interesting that you can, again, I called it a cheat earlier. I don't know how well that went over with the immediate parties here in the studio, but that's kind of the way, like a hack. You know, it's kind of a way to hack it a little bit. Like,
Exactly.
if you could go in there and you could get the same benefit in a fifth of the time, right? It takes typically an hour, right? Is an hour float? Is that?
Yes.
It's an hour float, right? And you get the same benefit of what sounds like about 5 hours of traditional sleep.
Yeah, I think the studies show 4 hours on average. So anywhere from 3 to 5 is what an hour is like.
So what's happening to the brain? Like, why is that? Why is that happening? Like, what sleep is the natural thing. It's what we've been doing ever since we crawled out of the water, right? So what? So what's going on with the float that's making that so?
Well, think back to anybody listening here that maybe has ever gone camping on a really dark night. Not a full moon, it's a little different. It's harder to sleep. But, when we go out camping in pitch black in a tent in the middle of nowhere, or we go somewhere that, it's just, maybe you're at a hotel and you got the blind, the total blackout and you sleep, it's hard to wake up. You just get in some really deep sleep.
Like Vegas, when you shut the blinds.
And you shut it all down and it's just a different experience. But then you take that and couple it with a zero gravity experience in an environment where if your arm is tight, it's going to float out to the side, or if your leg has tension on it. I mean, it can literally move where it wants to move. The waterbed was a great idea. Unfortunately, you have a piece of vinyl between you and the water. So you're not going to move once you're on that. You're just going to sink deeper into it, more like a V. Right. Whereas in the float tank, it's such a fluid environment. You can just move wherever you want to move. Your body's going to go where you need to go. And one of my doctor friends, I was asking him, because he floats a lot, and I asked, what do you think's going on in there? And he said, well, it's like your body knows and your mind knows what it needs to do and where it needs to go. And the greatest massage therapists on the planet can work and work and work, but they'll never know what your body knows. But in the tank, he felt like it was like having an autonomic nervous reset. Your body floats out, moves where it goes, releases the tension, lets go of the ligaments and tendons, and then comes back. And it just gives it the opportunity to move into the space that it already knows it knows where to go.
That's a fascinating thought. So it's a form of healing itself. It's the only one that knows where it needs to send the attention to, or in this case, the lack thereof, the letting go.
Exactly. I mean, we get referrals from probably a dozen medical facilities here in San Diego that have just kind of thrown their hands in the air as to, what do I do next? I say this, that most doctors do not want to hand out the narcotics, and I truly believe that because I see it in my center. They're not wanting to hand out the OxyContin or the Vicodin or whatever else that people are on. We've had people walk through our door. I had a 32-year-old woman walk through and wearing plastic plates Velcro together from chin to down to the groin area. And I asked her, I said, what happened? And she goes, I broke my back 3 months ago, got hooked on the OxyContin, and after her fifth float, completely got off of the OxyContin.
Wow.
And she was just amazed because she never wanted to take the medicine, but she was just in so much pain. And then once she got on it, she couldn't get off of it. So, it's amazing what can happen to a person like that.
So when you are in that, let's just call it state, have you ever had any wild experiences?
Wow to me is just shutting the brain off because I have not been able to do that. I did terrible in school. I hear Robert Kiyosaki talk about that, he couldn't wait to get out of school. And so I really resonate with the guy because that was me. I mean, I was a daydreamer. Yeah. I just couldn't wait to move on and move out. I got into business. That was really exciting because it kept me stimulated.
Yeah.
Something new. And I was just opening one thing after another just to keep the excitement and to fuel the fire. This business has been completely different to be able to get in a tank and turn that almost like a demon, that it's good to be driven, but sometimes a lot of people end up losing their families and their friends because they're so driven, they get so caught up in work, and they don't stop. And for me, this is the stop button.
They lose what's important to them.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a fascinating concept to think that you took all of your experiential capital of being an entrepreneur, which you shared with me at the break. By the way, catch it on the Meerkat app because that was all streaming live. So if you want to see what's going on in the breaks, there's some good stuff Mark's dropping. Go to the Meerkat, follow the stash, and you can even post a question for Mark. But that thought of of the collateral intelligence that you kind of had building. Like you had mentioned, you had amassed up like seven businesses at the same time at one point. Yeah.
Gosh, I think I probably had about six.
Six or seven at one time, and it was all in the doing. And you found this one thing that not only represents a great opportunity for you to take care of your family and put food on the table respectfully, but to also train yourself. So it's like a double in that you get to give this away in service to people who sounds like they're just lining up outside the door, like people like who are in accidents, who have broken their back, who are hooked on medication drug, exactly. PTSD guys, and Navy SEALs, local Army dudes. If you're having trouble with your sleep, it sounds like this could be a good hack for people that are having trouble, like with insomnia. Have
Definitely.
You had any insomniacs?
Oh, we get people that come to us regularly, and I sit in the lobby talking to somebody, and they don't sleep, and she goes, gosh, I'm 2 weeks, just an hour of sleep every night, so I got to come in here and just get some rest because they're just worn out. Potentially
retraining that little gray matter part in your brain, which could be the actual foil right now in the system that's not allowing them to go there, right?
Exactly. I think, we get so conditioned, so trained by the world around us. I mean, think about where you go in 24 hours.
Right.
Or take it out a week.
Yeah.
And just think back, how many stimulating images did you have on your eyes, your brain,
right.
your body? I mean, all that stuff, stress is, it's the number one killer. A buddy of mine, Ravi Tanji, wrote a book. He's that guy out of Canada. He was actually at one time running a big training center for corporate America. And he wrote about the damages of stress and the effects on business and the cost, and it's just staggering. Staggering.
Which is actually a great little setup, if you'll allow me, because the last leg of this journey we're taking with Mark Lesicka of Float Spa San Diego, you can catch him, by the way, at floatspassandiego.com, is about quick recovery. So coming up, gang, you might say the fourth chapter of this book, final leg of the journey of letting go with Mark, how Float Spa can help you. This could be where you find yourself. So stick around. We'll be right back.